don't know if you guys have noticed lately, but there are so many new bead types out on the market for us seed beaders. And, I'm almost in overload with it. It's like they come out with a new one like basically every month. And some of them I'm more attracted to than others. I've obviously loved the Superduos, but one of the new ones too that has really piqued my interest are the O beads. And they're kind of like a donut, but it's really tiny and flattened. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. These are the O beads, and I absolutely adore and love these. They're little tiny guys, and it's two-sided. So the ones that I have right here are what's called a Labrador coating. So it's got the silver on one side, and on the other side, it's actually clear, but you can kind of see the silver pop through, so it's ever so slightly different on one side than the other. You can get them where you have that silver coating on both sides, but it's more expensive to do that, and I think it looks just pretty much the same with the just the one coat of Labrador instead of the double coat of Labrador. Anyway, that comes in a whole array of colors, and so I was determined to come up with a way to use these. I actually love them so much, I've already been selling them in my online store at jillwisemandesigns.com. I have probably about 20 colors of the O beads already, but I still hadn't designed anything with them. So my goal for this week was to design something with them. And I came up with this little dainty necklace. Now I tend to wear jewelry that's a little bit more chunky because I am a fluffy girl, and so I can kind of take that that is proportional for me. But some of the more petite girls want something that's a little smaller, and this is going to be perfect for those petite ladies, which isn't going to stop me from wearing it, of course. This is going to be the basic version, and then I'm also going to show you how you can add a little extra pearl drop down here at the bottom. So let's get going and start working on our little necklace piece. So the way we're going to start this out is with using Superduos, size 11 seed beads, and our O beads. With Superduos, these are the ones that have the two holes, one on either side. Whoops, come back here, mister. He wants to roll off. So there's a hole here and a hole there. And what you want to do before you even start your project is make sure that none of those holes are blocked. Because I would say in your average tube or bag of Superduos, you're going to find maybe 5 to 10% of them that have one hole blocked. And it's not fun when you've created a big long piece here using one hole, and then as you're coming back to use the second hole, all of a sudden you find one that's blocked, and you can't. Sometimes you can poke your needle through one of those holes and pop out whatever's blocking it, but a lot of times you can't. And so if that happens to you, what you're going to end up having to do is rip back to that bad bead. So that being said, what I do before I even start working on these is I go through all my Superduos and I look at the holes. And there's two ways that work best for me. One is you can take these and hold it up to the light, and that way you can actually see light through the holes there. The other way is just simply to take your needle and just super fast, it doesn't take long to kind of go through and check both holes with your needle, one bead at a time. Someday you're going to decide that it's not worth the time to do this, and you're just going to go for it, and you're going to come across one of those blocked holes, and you're going to be so sad. And then you're going to say, now I remember why Jill told me to do that. Okay. Anyway, I have already pre-checked all these holes, so I know that this pile is good. And in this pile, I found 2 bad ones, just so you know proportionally. So here's how we're going to make this top edge of our new necklace. You're picking up a Superduo, an O bead, a size 11, and another O bead. There's a little bit of a trick to picking these O beads up from your pad. You will get better at it over time, because at first I thought that this was absolutely insane at trying to do this, but I've gotten much, much better at it. What I do is I come at it from underneath so that I can kind of flip it up on its edge, and then I can pick up that O. And you're just going to repeat picking up a Superduo, an O, a size 11, and an O. And periodically as you do this, stop and look to make sure that you haven't messed up your sequence, because if you mess up your sequence again, you're just gonna, oops, I just kind of popped a couple beads off the needle, but you're gonna have, if you mess up your sequence, you're gonna have to go back and fix it. So don't go too far. I normally go, you know, maybe an inch or two before I actually stop and look, and then I can kind of push that down my needle. To keep these all on your thread, what you probably will want to do is either use a bead stopper, which is one of those little clamps that you can clamp onto the end of your thread here to keep all your beads on, or you can use a stopper bead. And I should have added a stopper bead when I started, so I'm just going to take it from the back end, and I'm going to poke my thread through the pearl here that I'm going to use as a stopper bead. I think I am. See, I'm trying to be wild and crazy and do this without a needle. There we go. And then I'm just going to bring that thread back around and poke it through the pearl again. And then there's my backwards way of doing a stopper bead, and I can kind of move it up. I want to leave myself enough of a tail, 4 to 6 inches, so that I can weave that back in later. Okay, so this is your job, is to go and string a big long length of these beads in this sequence. And when you come back, we will talk about sizing, we'll talk about the top edge, and I'm sorry, the adding your clasp, and then adding the bottom edge of the piece. Thanks. Okay, so let's talk just for a second about sizing. Sizing is going to be really simple on this. Basically, you just need to take into account the area of your clasp, and you know, your clasp, depending on what size of clasp you use, can be anywhere from like a 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches or even bigger. Now, because this is a fairly petite necklace, you want something that's going to be in scale with it. So don't go too crazy big with your clasp. This would be a great necklace for one of your smaller size clasps. The beads that we're going to add on either side of your clasp to attach it are going to be very few. So you're really only talking maybe a 1/4 inch extra for the beads. Let me show you here what I've got going on. I wanted to point out that when we add this second pass down here, we're adding these pearls in, and these are 4mm pearls. And what happens when you add the pearl in is it creates a little bit of an angle. It's just a very slight angle. And so some people might be concerned that that's going to take up some additional length. I have discovered that it really doesn't, because it's such a slight angle. If it were much more of an aggressive angle, then we might be talking about something. But I had to keep the angle very slight so that it didn't get to where, like my first pass when I was designing this, got basically to where it was turning like this, because it was, those angles were so acute, you never would have gotten a nice drape around your neck. So we need those angles to be nice and soft for the drape around your neck. So here's what we're going to actually do. When you get to the end, I'm making a little Barbie necklace. You know how I like to adorn Barbie. I had this great comment in one of the emails that I got recently, who said Barbie is going to have one heck of a jewelry wardrobe before long. So now I've made a bunch of bracelets for her. Now we need to make a necklace. So here we're going to pretend that I've come to the end of stringing all my entire necklace length. I'm going to end by adding one Superduo. So you want to end with a Superduo. And then here's half of the clasp that I'm going to use. So I'm just going to pick up this is one of these variable items. I'm going to pick up, say, 5 seed beads here. And I'm going to poke it through the end of this toggle clasp. With your toggle clasp, you need the end that is the bar end to be a little bit longer, because you need to make sure that you're giving it enough room to come up through here, through the loop end, and it needs to be able to come up and then turn sideways. So you do have to have this part be a little bit longer. The other thing that you want to pay attention to is, like in this particular case, this bar, the beads don't move freely through the hole. So I'm picking up 5, and then I'm going to pick up 5 on the other side. Sometimes those beads will move freely through the hole, and that may also affect how many beads you want to pick up, because you may want a bead to sit right in the middle of the hole. So just know that that's not a problem if that happens with your beads. It's normal. Some clasps are made one way, some are made the other. So here's my next 5 on the other side of this clasp, and I bet you can guess what's going to happen. I am going to pop it back through the second hole of that Superduo. And this is a better time to check and make sure that this is enough length for your bar to fit up through the hole. And so you can kind of hold some tension on that, poke it on up through, and yes, I'm fine. I've got no problem holding that. So that clasp area is secure. When we come back around here again, we can always reinforce this clasp then, or you can just reinforce the clasp now, and I'll show you how you reinforce it now. I just am going to let my thread sit along this edge, this bottom edge of the Superduo, and I'm going to bring it back up that second hole of the Superduo, and then back through all those beads again. Let's see here. And you probably will have to make several passes to do it, but here it looks like I'm going to get lucky. There's through all my 5 and the hole. The reason I like to reinforce a clasp is because that's your point of most wear and tear in any bracelet or necklace. And so if something's going to break, that's the time it's going to break. Generally it'll fail at the clasp area. So my rule of thumb is I want 3 passes of thread through there. This was my second pass. You guys should go ahead and make a 3rd pass when you do it, okay? But I'm going to just keep moving forward. Okay, so on this bottom edge, what we're going to do is, we can tighten this up. My stopper bead is moved a little bit on me, so let me tighten that back up again. We're going to come back and you're going to add the same embellishment between the Superduos 3 times, and then on the 4th one, we're going to substitute a pearl for the seed bead. So here we go. We're going to pick up a, oops, my O beads, I moved them out of frame thinking I was done with them, but I wasn't. So an O bead, and a seed bead, and an O bead, and then back through the next Superduo. That. And so O bead, seed bead, O bead, and then back through the next Superduo. And then you're going to do one more of those. I'm going to actually jump forward and do the first pearl because I'm about to run out of O beads and I have to go pull some out of the bag, and we'll just skip ahead here. So then when you get to the 4th spot, what you'll do is you pick up your O bead, your pearl, 4mm pearl, and then an O bead, and pass through the next Superduo. There we go. And as all this tightens up, there we go. You can kind of see where it's starting to give me an angle right there. And so you'll keep doing that all the way along. It'll be 3 sets of using the seed bead in the middle, and then your 4th one will be the pearl. If you want fewer pearls, you can do that. You can space it out a little bit more with the pearls. You can't really go with more pearls though, because that will give us more angles, and that will then make the drape of the necklace a little bit too extreme. So that's the one downside of this. So go ahead and finish that. Come to the other end. You can attach the other end of your clasp the same way we did this first end, and then when you come back, I'm going to show you how you can do one more little tweak and add some dangles here. All right, so assuming that you've got your entire length, you've done the top, you've done the bottom, you've attached your clasp on both sides, guess what? All you have to do is end off your threads and you've got a necklace to wear. But if you want to add a little extra dangle, here's how we're going to do it. Let me show you. Here I've gone ahead and finished off that edge. Let me do it so that it's showing the right way. There we go. So here's Barbie's little bracelet, and she had enough room for 2 pearls. I went ahead and attached the other end of my toggle. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave back down to the first pearl. And because when I attached my toggle, I ended up on the top row of this. What you're going to do to get down to the bottom edge is just along one of those Superduos, you can let your thread just sit right in that intersection right there along the Superduo. So you'll bring it down. I'm coming out next to the Superduo, and then I'm going to pop through the second bead on that Superduo to get down to the bottom edge. There we go. So now I'm on the bottom, and I can just work my way along the bottom to that pearl. And where you want to be coming out is actually past the pearl. So I'm going to go through the pearl as I'm doing this. One of the other benefits of doing this is you can tighten up your work a little bit. Sometimes you'll have extra thread showing, and so this can be a good thing to get all that extra thread sucked on up with your second pass. So here I am. I'm going to go through the pearl. Hello. There we go. And I'm going to add a seed bead, an O bead, a seed bead, and a pearl. And then another seed bead, O bead, seed bead. So the repeat on either side of the pearl is we want the O bead in the middle this time and seed bead on either side. And then I'm just going to pass back through that pearl again. I want to go in the side that I do not have the thread coming out of. There we go. So you're going in a circle around it. There. And now we've just added this petite little adorable dangle here. And then you can just move your way along to the next one and do the exact same thing. And I'll show you how it looks when you've got multiples going on there. One thing about going back through these is know that right now this is a little bit loosey-goosey because I haven't ended off my tail thread yet. So I'm being able to get into these beads pretty easily. But don't be surprised if you have to just take it a couple of beads at a time, or maybe even one bead at a time when you're passing back through these, because we're changing the angles on it. And so it's fairly normal for that to happen. Okay, so seed bead, O bead, seed bead, new little pearl, and then seed bead, O bead, and seed bead. Back through that same pearl, going in a circle. There we go. And you can see what a nice, just as a little delicate accent that adds at each juncture. All right, that's it. That's all I got to tell you about this necklace. Go forward and make a bunch of them, and be sure to show them to me. I'm on Facebook all the time. We have conversations about things like new bead types and sizes and colors and everything. You can find kits available for this on my website at jillwisemandesigns.com. Also just supplies. So if you have some of the beads but not all of the beads, I've got them for you. I got you covered. Enjoy.